As a longtime UFC fan, one of my favorite fighters of all time, who also happens to be one of the greatest ever to compete inside the octagon, Anderson Silva, faced off against an opponent who would change the culture of MMA forever. A culture where you had some pretty modest champions and top-tier fighters in front of the mic, in comparison to today's pro wrestling, self-hype, and promotional theatrics. For example, you had George St. Pierre, Matt Hughes, BJ Penn, Lyoto Machida, Dan Henderson, Shogun Rua, Nate Marquardt, and Anderson Silva himself when you had him in front of the mic. Of course, you had some exceptions like Tito Ortiz, Michael Bisping, and Rampage Jackson, but nothing compared to the complete vanity that we often see today. The fighters also weren't paid as much back then, and it wasn't as much about the money as it is today. Champions also fought more consistently around the calendar, 3 to 4 times a year. It was just a different culture. Then a man named Chael Sonnen worked his way up the ranks and used the spotlight to run his mouth. He talked mad shit. He was the ultimate self-promoter. He even claimed to be undefeated and undisputed. And by the way, he was fucking great at it. Many people enjoyed his self-promotion. It was practically unreal how he played his character. People loved him, as well as loved to hate him. He stirred up animosity with many of his fellow competitors, running his mouth to possibly receive favor from management to get the big fights, to conjure up hype with fans and build his name. Money-making fights which he helped sell. But when he was initially coming up, his main target, the reigning, undisputed Hall of Famer and arguably the GOAT, Anderson Silva. The American gangster Chael Sonnen brought out the Tommy guns that emerged from his mouth, spitting shit left and right, up and down. There was no direction or boundaries he wouldn't take or cross with Silva. Called him a dirtbag, the most unpopular. That and when Anderson walks in a room, you can hear a rat piss on cotton. Also, that he never seen Anderson truly fight. That he beat up a math teacher and a slow and unathletic light heavyweight. And that his fighting style includes dancing, like Michael Jackson, that he uses for a setup. He also mentioned the legendary friends and training partners of Silva, the Nogueira brothers, stating that getting a black belt from them is like saying I got a free toy in my Happy Meal. This is all true, by the way. You can all look it up. It was some very entertaining stuff. Chael also had some other verbal slingers, saying Silva is a liar and a thief. He doesn't come from a bowing culture. If you bow in Brazil, they will hit you over the head and take the wallet out of your pocket. Chael even tried to take the belt from him diplomatically, through demand.
We don't have to fight. I issued him in writing, I sent it over my demands.
He left the UFC for no less than 12 months. He issued an apology to the fans. Simple things. And he erected a statue in my likeness in his living room that he bowed to each evening.
Me personally, as a fan, I enjoyed the banter and controversial charisma of Chael. He really got everyone hyped up to see the fights. He sold tickets, plain and simple. He was the UFC's pioneer for the ultimate showman. I knew Anderson had to have been boiling on the inside. Nobody had the balls to call him out, let alone disrespect him like that. As a prediction for the fight, I saw Silva winning by devastating knockout, because the man had electrifying stand-up that basically stunned his opponents, and then would execute a razzle-dazzle knockout or finish. The man now definitely has to be on a warpath to silence the brash American gangster Sonnen. However, when the two finally went toe-to-toe, it was Chael who beat the living fuck out of Silva. And that's no damn exaggeration either. He went on full gangster mode. Backed up everything he said, walked through everything Silva threw at him, and beat the living fuck out of him. Did he kill him? No. Did he finish him? Well, Silva was certainly on his last leg, or last health bar, to put it to you that way. 4.5 rounds of pure destruction, using his wrestling ability and ferocious non-stop pace. My head started hurting for Silva as I watched Chael slam his palms into both of Silva's temples simultaneously. Thud, thud, thud. The brain damage that was suffered had to have been astounding. Chael was practically a lock for victor. 320 to 64 in strikes landed, 89 to 29 in significant ones. Chael simply needed to just avoid being finished to complete his dream of becoming world champion. With roughly 2 minutes left in the 5th and final round, Anderson Silva rose from the dead from his back like the Undertaker and cinched Chael Sonnen in a triangle choke, forcing the American gangster to tap, crushing the lifelong dreams of Chael within 2 minutes of him seizing it. Carrying out manifestation of karma for himself, the nation of Brazil, and others by ironically going full Brazilian gangster and whacking Chael with jiu-jitsu moments before Chael would realize his euphoric moment of becoming a champion. Pure savage mode by the Brazilian Silva, capping off, in my opinion, the most improbable and greatest comeback in UFC history.